Hello, welcome to Podcassidy. I am here with Jason Gudadaria. Did I say it right?
You got it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. How are you,
You're like
Jason?
close enough. I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
How's your Sunday? Are
My
you
Sunday,
in Eastern? Is it 4 for you
I
also?
am. It is 4 p.m. I am East Coast. I am a native New Yorker, but for the past 10 years or so, I've been in Connecticut. So a New Englander now, which I think fits our vibe a little better, right? I have like I'm looking out my window. I have like trees, which is crazy,
Yeah.
right? My daughter was taking home videos of a deer the other day. At least once a year, like a bear walks through our backyard. It's pretty cool.
A bear?
Yeah, we get little black bears. They're cute. Yeah.
Typical Connecticut stuff.
Yeah, just Connecticut stuff. Yeah.
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 Were you like in the city in New York or were you like in a suburb or whatever?
No, the suburbs, Nassau County. If anybody's familiar with Long Island, Nassau County, it's like the suburbs outside of Queens.
Yeah, I don't really see you as a city boy. I'm not gonna lie. Like living in
Grew up
like
in
New
Queens.
York City, it doesn't seem like you.
No, my younger years, I grew up in Queens. My both my parents are Queens natives. I grew up in Queens, and then around high school age, they moved out to Long Island, and I despised every minute of it. So like, as soon as I could leave Long Island, that's what I did. So I love how that's how we're starting the podcast, where it's like Jason's disdain for what my kids refer to as Traffic Island.
Well, clearly, the disdain had passed on then. They
Yeah.
picked up on that quickly. We already have Vance in here and Brianna.
Oh
So
no.
it was super late last night, so I don't know if you saw it. It was 10:30 p.m., but she and Brooke and Bill did a roast of Max.
I jumped
It
on.
was
I jumped
so
on,
good.
like halfway through. It was pretty brutal. I want to give Max some credit for sitting there. He's a good sport about it. Yeah. Fun little fact about Max. He's the only person I like unfollowed on LinkedIn. And it's like the content was just like too much. It was coming into, but like that's his thing, and he's doing great and he's blowing up. And I'm so happy to see him successful. I just don't need it on my feed.
And it's okay. You're not the first person that has told me that.
I'm happy to have a
I'm
conversation with him
sure.
about it. Yeah, happy to have a conversation with him about it. But I was just like, this is getting too much.
I am sure there are plenty of people that have unfollowed me for this. I've had someone tell me, they're like, Cassie, you've taken over my feed. I have to unfollow you. And I was like, I get it.
We have a good question here, Serena, right? This is actually something I've been curious about. Like, who has the bigger hat collection, me or your husband? You and I have talked about this, like in the past, right? Yeah.
I think that was one of the first things that we talked about because I think I saw the hat emoji next to your name, and I was like, Jason, we need to talk about hats.
Yeah, that's like our
My
first.
husband has a hat addiction. How many total and what kinds of hats do you have?
I lost track in the triple digits. So I did. I lost track of the number when I finally reached the triple digits. What you see on the wall is only about like 30 or 40 of them, but there's hats like tucked away in these cubbies. I have a whole pile next to me. They're mostly truckers, right? Seriously, Gorin. There's a company, Gorin Brothers, San Francisco-based hat company. They should be sponsoring this event, right? Like at least giving me a plug of some kind, because they're all Gorin hats. It's the only ones I buy. They have a line of hats called The Farm, right? So all of these hats, these trucker hats you see, they're from the Farm collection. They're wonderful. They're lovely. They're all animal based. Every time I get on like a phone call with like an actual like executive or business stakeholder, they're always like, "Oh, what sports team do you follow?" And I was like, "Oh, no. They're animals, right? Like each one of these hats has like an animal on it with a different animal pun." And I just fell in love with them and apparently can't stop purchasing these things. But I do also have the full gamut. I have different fedoras. What I have on right now is a straw hat or a Panama hat, depending on what you want to call it. I have the different wool fedoras. I have cotton fedoras. I have the flat caps. I got them all.
Oh, wow. That. Well, my husband has also lost count of how many he has, but he does know it is above 400.
Yeah, we might have a beat. Yeah.
And I know it's above that because I I wasn't yelling at him. I need to make that clear. But I was like, there are not enough days in the year for you to wear every single hat that you own. You have more hats than there are days in the year.
No, I have several hats that I have no intentions of ever wearing. Like they're just beautiful hats that I like looking at, and I buy them because Goran literally has my phone number, and every Friday they put a drop down limited edition, and half the time I have to have it. So I get that, right? Some of these hats we're just not going to wear. My kids do love though. They come out like before a family like outing, and they'll pick what hat Daddy wears for the day. And that's like a fun game that they like to do.
I love that. My husband, he does have one of those hats, and it's the one that has like a Black Panther or something on it, and then he stitched Mickey on the side of it with a heart. So I'll have to find it. Probably wait for him to get here and find it and show me it. But I think I have to show a picture on LinkedIn to everyone of the Mickey hat. Because my heart exploded when I saw it. Danny said it's a lifestyle, all the hats. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's turned into a thing. Yeah, it's definitely all encompassing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy I leaned into it. Right. I feel like that's right. One of the things we wanted to talk about is just kind of like building a brand, leaning into your quirks. I've had these conversations with like, folks that I've like mentored, like interns and like junior staff and stuff. And it's just like nowadays, if there's any opportunity you have to just like lean into a quirk that you have, fine. Right. Like that's right. We don't need to hide these things.
True. Very true. Serena asked if you have any favorites.
I do. Yeah. Some of the favorites are right next to me. I'll show you the first one. This is what started it all. Well, this is what started it all on the
cash cow.
Yeah, cash cow, right? It's just the animal. I bought this during COVID, right? And everybody was like, we were sad, we were terrified, right? And nobody was smiling happy. And I saw this thing online and it made me chuckle. And I was like, you know what? That's rare these days. I'm going to buy this hat because this is bringing me joy. And it was retail therapy. And then that turned into, right? And then after that, I saw this one. Right. And that one made me laugh even more. Right. And then I bought like another 3 for myself. And then my friends and family started purchasing for me. And it turned into a whole crazy thing. Yeah.
See, it's so kind that they started purchasing them for you because in my case, when I told my husband, you have too many hats, this is ridiculous. You can't be bringing in any more hats. He then found it as a reason to then start buying hats for other people.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah, I bought like my brother's.
But it's okay because it's going to this person. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah, all of like Christmas gifts for my brother and birthday presents are always their hats now. But like all of this is my office is in the garage because of that exact same problem. As my wife is like, this is too much. You can't have it in the house. So, it literally, it's no, just no. Yeah.
Yeah. Brianna, so you should have a hat with a picture of a hat on it. The hat.
That would be fun. Yeah.
But yeah, we can use that as like our little segue talking about like personal branding because it really has become like one of your things. That's why I reached out to you to begin with.
Yeah.
Was because I saw that you had a hat and I was like, I can relate to that. Well, somewhat.
We all have Bill Yost to blame for putting emoticons in his name, right? Was he like the first one to do it? And then we all jumped on?
I think so.
Bill's fault. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, we can definitely blame him for it. Well, Serena said if her YouTube channel takes off, she'll sell merch and a hat collection just for you.
Yay. That's pretty great. Thanks, Serena.
What else would you say are your personal branding? What else sticks out? What else do you try to capitalize on to draw people to you?
I don't really want to call it right. All right, we're gonna pause.
Okay, let me not use the word
right?
capitalize.
Right, it's like, right? Like I hear the word capitalize and immediately I'm like, are you dropping into my DM to like pitch me something, right? Like, oh, how do you convert, right? No, I don't convert, I guess is the question, right? For better or worse, I don't convert. But I have leaned into the Dr. Relevant persona, right? Which is a lot of fun for me. And I feel like, hopefully people will like, follow some of the content that I post. It's fun for them also. But it's a way for me to incorporate a lot of the IO psychology stuff, right? My IO psychology background in a fun and kind of educational kind of way. Like I do it mostly because one, it's silly, but I feel like it's educational. And
Yeah.
I'm a nerd, so I hope other nerds, right? I hope other nerds go out there and appreciate psychology of the workplace and being a little cynical and not treating LinkedIn as, buttoned up as it used to be. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's working. You have your little following underneath each of your posts.
Yeah.
You have the same people showing up rooting for you, so
yeah,
it's definitely working.
They're a great group. They're a great group, and I love them. I love the comments. That's why I do it. Right?
It's the best part. Best part of posting.
Right? The comments, right? The posting and ghosting folks. It's like, all right, fine, I get what you're doing here. But like to me, when I started posting, it was because I wanted to engage in conversation. Right? I wanted to meet people, right? Build a community.
Yep.
I think I saw Danny. I think I saw Danny in the chat. Danny was. I did an early session with him. One of the Fix My Feed sessions when he first started doing it. So if anybody hasn't reached out to Danny, go find him. He's fantastic. Because I'm a social media rube. I know I am the worst at social media. And one conversation with Danny, and like it really was super helpful and eye opening. Yeah.
I just heard like tapping. I don't know if someone's doing something outside or what.
Speaking of which, if I get attacked by bees, like while we're talking, there's a
home?
The garage, right? So earlier today, I found like a little hole where some wasps were like burrowing into. So I, grabbed a little quick drying cement and I like covered up the hole. And now I'm terrified that they're gonna find an exit inside while I'm in here chatting with you. So literally, if I get attacked by bees, pray for me.
I will. That sounds terrible. What's the origin of Dr. Irrelevant?
Yeah, so I am an actual doctor, not a medical doctor, PhD, doctor of philosophy. My degree is in applied organizational psychology from the wonderful Hofstra University out on Long Island. I don't like a lot of things about Long Island, but Hofstra is one of the things I really like. I still adjunct there, right? Because I love it. Any sports fans in here will kind of recognize the Mr. Irrelevant term. Like the last person at the NFL draft is playfully called Mr. Irrelevant. So at my PhD graduation ceremony, by some crazy weird circumstance, I ended up being the very last person to walk across the stage. Now, if anybody's actually sat through a graduation ceremony, even like like this was like a 3-4 hour event. Like by like the first 60 minutes, people were like, no, we want to get out of here. Like get these people across the stage. We're bored. We're out of here. Right. We're hungry. So having me be the last person walk across the stage was like hilarious for my PhD cohort. So they started referring to me while we're sitting there for 3.5 hours. They started calling me Dr. Irrelevant. They're like, oh, we just got to get Dr. Irrelevant across the stage so we can be done here. And then every time I met with that cohort after that, they'd be like, hey, Dr. Irrelevant's here. It turned into like a fun, playful thing. But like I leaned into it more years later. Right. So it was like something that started with friends. And then I leaned into the Dr. Irrelevant persona years later, because like when you start working professionally, right, there's some places I worked at that like really appreciated the PhD in IO psychology. And if anybody doesn't know what IO psychology is, it stands for industrial organizational psychology. It's kind of a niche field within psychology of the workplace. So it's just about a bunch of nerds who use psychological principles to understand how work happens, right? We use it to research motivation, employee engagement, learning and development, hiring, retention, all of that fun stuff. Anyway, we can have a broader conversation about that. You just have to DM me. But anyway, so I'd be at some employers, right, where the degree was valued, right? I'd be surrounded by other people with similar degrees, different degrees, and like we'd brainstorm and chat about the work and, in that kind of way. And then I worked at some other places that, even though they on paper appreciated the PhD, there were some people that I worked with who like just were threatened by it. There's like a stigma associated with it, like, you know. And I feel I've talked to other folks with higher degrees who have experienced similar stigma. And again, people in this situation, like we're viewed as like, oh, he's a know-it-all, right? He's going to come in, right, you know, and you know, just kind of be overbearing in that capacity. And it's like anybody I've spoken to, there are people like that, of course, but like anybody I've spoken to who got a PhD, it's like we went through this academic journey because we like to learn. Like it's literally the opposite. Like we're not know-it-alls. We did this because we wanted to learn more things. And it's right, it's like a humbling thing where it's like everybody's academic journey, everybody's professional journey, career journey is different, right? But there were some places where the stigma of just having the PhD at the end of my name kind of came off the wrong way. And in order for me to kind of deflect from, hey, forget about that and let's just focus the conversation on the work that we are collaborating on, that we value, right? I kind of adopted this Dr. Irrelevant persona. Like the doctor is irrelevant aside to the work and the conversations that we should be having. Once I started posting on LinkedIn, I took it a step in like a little bit more forward, where I leaned into it like publicly, because like a lot of what I post about, a lot of what I talk about is more educational based, right? It's cynical, right? A lot of what I post is satire. It's like workplace satire. Some of it's based off like real crazy stories that I've had in my career, but most of it's workplace satire, but all geared towards like understanding IO psychology, the importance of it, how it can benefit the workplace, that can help people reduce anxiety, appreciate work better, work more efficiently, all of that fun stuff. So I kind of leaned into it a little, like obviously publicly, where it's like Dr. Irrelevant is now kind of who I come to the table as.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I get that, you know, I'm no doctor. But when it comes to working with the people in manufacturing and skilled trades, they don't need a buttoned up like college graduate talking down to them. They need someone that like talks to them at their level.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It talks about the right. And like a lot of what I post about, even though most of it's like backed in science and theory and practice from my academic career, my academic side of things, I like to break it down into like stuff we've all experienced. Right. Yeah. And like just things that people can relate to every day in their jobs, in their roles, and they can look at it and say, yeah, that was bullshit. You know, like
Absolutely. And then the industrial of IO, is that specifically like manufacturing, construction, like what we think when we think industrial, or
no, right? Like the term, so it's not specifically that. So I think, oh my God, you're testing me. I'm like, right, if there's anybody in IO who's on here, right?
I'm taking notes, Jason. I'm reporting back.
Please don't fact check, because I'm going to do a quick history lesson. So the field started in, I think, the 1940s, 1950s. And I think, right, some of the very earliest use cases of it were like literally like time on task studies, more in an industrial, right, manufacturing setting where they'd literally be clocking people. How long does it take to do X, Y, and Z? Can we be more efficient if we literally move the workspace around? So I'm fairly certain that's how the field kind of started, and then it grew, you know, into other more like less tangible things like, you know, workplace culture and things like that. But yes, I believe when the term industrial organizational psychology first came about, it was in the 1940s, and that's maybe what it stood for.
Okay, but today it's just anywhere in like a workplace.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Psychology of the workplace. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then Kevin K-Stu asked us a site question. He said, does the company swag like shirts and hats actually have an effect on people?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Sort of like, yeah, I mean, if you're just kind of handing out like that onboarding bag, people come to expect it, right? I'm sure there's research on it somewhere about how really effective these things are. At this point in time, it's more of like polite. It's just kind of expected. It's more just being polite and less of like a retention exercise, right? I've never heard of anybody saying, "Oh, I didn't get a bag at onboarding with a branded thermos, so I'm going to quit." Although I did have, no, I take that back. They didn't quit. But I did have a coworker who joined, and they were like, on the first day, where they were like, "Where's my branded thermos?" They were like genuinely upset that they didn't get a branded thermos. But to take it like a step further, right? There are employee recognition programs. There's a lot of companies that focus on employee recognition, and a lot of the employee recognition outside of just straight up monetary benefits comes down to like, how are you recognizing your employees? Sometimes it's through some swag or things like that. So yeah, there's a little bit there, but yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Kind of in the same realm as a pizza party for thank
Right,
you.
we joke around a lot about that's one of the cynical things. Like a pizza party is not going to fix your workplace culture. No, it's not. But
at the same time, pay my electric bill.
Right? Like, yeah, you throw a pizza party and people aren't going to magically be more motivated to, put in extra hours. But at the same time, nobody's really going to turn down that slice of pizza. So, right? Yeah. So what we like to say in IO psychology is it depends, right? There's always something, some sort of mediating and moderating, some such in the middle that's influencing this stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. We got another IO question. How do you resolve office bullying and social isolation amongst cliques at a sales office? That one's like specific.
It's very specific, and my heart goes out to you. I feel like everybody, myself included, have been subject to workplace bullying and toxic workplace behaviors. So it's a hard one, right? It's a hard one, right? Again, it depends. There's going to be a lot of, I feel like, very specific nuance. Feel free to DM me. We could chat on the side, but like, it's a hard one, right? I feel like the only thing we could really talk about without the specific details is that it is a thing that happens. Workplace bullying is very real, very common. Toxic workplace behaviors are they're hard to get by, especially if the people who are creating the toxic environment are like a manager or a supervisor or higher up, right? Sometimes there are situations where really the only thing you can do is start looking for a off ramp, a soft escape. But there are other strategies you can take, right? If there are HR folks you could trust, then go to. Sometimes that's not always the case either, because sometimes that's part of the problem too. We like to believe it's not, but like, again, it all depends. My heart goes out to you in that situation. I've been there. It's hard. Hang in there. Just focus on what you can control, right? Focus on your own skills, your own mental health, right? Remind yourself that it's not you, right? It's always good to have an advocate. The buddy system helps. I have one myself. I don't know if he's on, but I joke around with him often on LinkedIn. Buddy of mine, Dr. Dan Meltzer, right? He's like kind of my go-to person, where I'm like, hey, I just experienced X, Y, and Z. Does that sound normal? And they're like, no, absolutely not, right? Always nice to have that advocate where you can remind yourself that it's not you, right? That the situation you're in really is toxic, right? And yeah.
Yeah. I used to hear about that.
Never been bullied at work? Oh, way to go, Rob. Good for you, man. Wait, does that mean you're the one doing the bullying? I don't know you, Rob. Sorry.
I just said. I said maybe you're the bully then. But no, I would hear that a lot, especially from the temps when I was doing like the agency work, because especially in warehouses, they're so used to people being in and out of there. They don't treat them like actual people, treat them disposable. So I'd have to keep coaching them through it.
Of course. And like, it's different in different industries, like sales industries. I think that was the one example, right? They are traditionally a little bit more cutthroat, right? Sales incentives, right? Sales folks are incentivized to be more about themselves, individualized work, right? Versus some other things. So it's, there's a lot of nuance there. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about your consulting, because you and I are actually I'm at a point where you were when you started your consulting.
Like a year and a half ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm you a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Tell us the story.
Pre-2025, I was working as the chief of staff at a large digital services company. I not like the chief of staff to the CEO, but I was chief of staff for different organizations. First was our global head of data and analytics, and then I sat as the chief of staff for a brief amount of time for our new chief marketing officer. So I sat in that role for about 4.5 years or so, right? So when the inevitable kind of layoffs were happening, right, I was in the room, not necessarily part of the conversation, but in the room when these executives are talking about, oh, we're going to have to downsize. It was, we hear about this all the time. It was, nothing personal. Business was what it was, and they were looking for opportunities to offshore and reduce costs. So they were going through the list of like, all right, it's going to be these roles, these geographies, right? And in early 2025, and I'm just checking the box, going, oh yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. That sounds like me, right? So like that was the good news and the bad news, right? Is I had a little bit of a buffer, I could wrap my head around it, right? And even with that, everybody who goes through a layoff, when there's rumors that pop up, everybody has the same reaction where it's like, oh, maybe it won't be me. Yeah.
Yep.
Cognitive dissonance kind of thing, right? Somebody's gonna fact check me on that one, right? But like I luckily like prepared myself. Like I heard the writing on the walls, I saw the writing on the walls, right? Even though I didn't like confront the executives directly, like I knew it was coming. So I had a bit of a prep time where I could spin up my LLC. So when the inevitable layoff did happen, right? They were exactly that. They were restructuring my role. They moved it offshore for less cost. I had my LLC spun up in about a month, which was pretty quick, right? Because I had the prep time. So what I'm doing now is called JSG Advisory, my initials, JSG Advisory LLC. I do IO consulting across the full talent management lifecycle, anywhere from talent strategy through people analytics, through change management, which are all pieces of the puzzle that I have more than dabbled in throughout my career. So I started doing that in early 2025, was pretty successful right out of the gate, which I hear is not always the case, right? A lot of it's feast or famine, right? There was one time where I had, I was working full-time at a client and had 2 opportunities come my way that I had to kick to another consulting group that I have in my network. And then sometimes it's just sitting around doing nothing, no leads. That's when that's when I went on vacation with my family, things like that. But it's been educational. We'll phrase it that way.
Yeah. When you saw that writing on the wall and knew that it was coming, were you getting ready? Like, was the consulting like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, but I'm still going to try to like find something new? Or were you like, I can't like commit to a company again, I'm doing it on my own?
I'm still working through that. Yeah, I'm still working through that, which is like totally normal, right? Like I love the consulting, but I love the solo consulting. Like I started my career in consulting. I did it for about 6 years, but I was working at a consulting firm, right? So it was a little easier, even though I had like a portfolio of myself to manage, right? It was easier because like the leads would kind of come to us. I've never done solo consulting before, so having to look for the clients myself is something that I'm happy to have gotten that experience with, but it's also a stressful part of the job that I wasn't really prepared for before getting into it, right? So yeah, I still go through that right now, right? Where I'm like, all right, I would love to get, full-time for the right organization, or I would like to consult for the right organization, right? So I think that's kind of where I'm at, was I have the luxury to kind of be a little pickier.
Yeah.
Which, as picky as one can be in the current job market, what I mean? Like that, right? You don't always get to pick and choose, but like I have the luxury to be like, all right, what really is my next move? Going back, working full time, right? And there's some organizations that I'm scoping out, that I'm talking to, that are absolutely on my radar. And then there's other, consulting gigs that I'm like, all right, let me continue fostering this until something, shapes up. But yeah, I feel like that's part of the journey, right? We try new things, see what we like, see what we don't like, right? And then just kind of craft our career around that.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
What are some of like the craziest situations that you have come into in your consulting where you're like, why is this set up like this? Where you're like, this needs to change immediately.
I want to say, thankfully, I don't really have a good example on hand. I mean, is that the good news? The good news is I don't really have a good example.
That is
good. That is good, right? So again, a lot of the consulting work that I've gone into is usually because they've the employer has already explored. They've already done enough research. It's already bought in, right? Where I don't usually have to come in and kind of sell, for example, like an entire employee listening strategy to an employer. Usually they're coming to me because they already bought, they already have executives bought in. They need somebody to build some structure around it, somebody who has experience in this space, things like that. So that's the good news, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's obviously, like we talked about, there's some scenarios where I've gotten into that, right, from a system, like a systemic or a systematic situation where it's like, all right, I don't think anything big needs to change.
Yeah.
I don't think the system is broken, but like that team is, right? Or that leader is, or that person is, right? Yeah, there's been those scenarios.
Right. No. I mean, that does seem kind of crazy to just go in and be like, that person is your issue.
Oh, I mean, but that's reality sometimes, right? Sometimes you have just one individual where that's the problem, right? And it's hard to pinpoint that without, now we go into like pinpoint that without like solid performance expectations and performance review cycles and things like that, right? It's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kevin asks, what's the number one good that you do for employees? Good, I'm assuming that's like service.
I mean, that's a great question. That is a great question. My passion area is employee engagement, right? So if anybody's kind of worked in really any setting these days, like most companies have some sort of employee listening program that is specifically designed to pinpoint how engaged the workforce is. They do it for different motivations, right? But at the end of the day, it all boils down to like the idea that an engaged workforce is a motivated workforce, and they're going to be more productive in their roles and so on, right? So I started my career in consulting in this space, doing organizational assessments specifically designed to kind of gauge how employee engagement translates to business outcomes, as well as a positive workplace, right? So I've told this story before. Like my father was a union electrician, and like that's why I got into IO psychology in the first place. Is growing up in this household where my dad was working like, crazy overtime, right? Really killing himself. And he would come home every day and tell me like, I don't want you doing this. Meanwhile, I am the first male in my family for generations to not be an electrician, which is wild. But like, that's why I got into it. It's like, there's got to be some way to help people not hate their work, right? There's got to be a way, right? There's got to be some sort of scientific solution where people can go to work, be productive, make a living, and not hate every minute of it, right? That's why I got into IO psychology in the first place. So, employee engagement's like my passion area, right? So like any employee listening program that I either get involved in, either whether it's, just through execution or through strategy and design, right? All of these employee engagement programs all these employee listening programs are really, from my perspective, meant to have the voice of the employee showcased to executives and the decision makers in such a way where we can hopefully improve things that actually matter to the employees, right? That's the goal of all of this, right? It's not just lip service. And there are some places that unfortunately it turns into that, right? Where, oh, we heard you, but nothing changes. It happens all the time. But like my goal, anything that I'm involved with is, right, I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that the voice of the employees, gets taken forward to the people who can actually do something about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's part of consulting too. You can tell them everything that needs to be done. You can tell them, you need to do this, and this. But if they don't do the steps to make it happen, then like, how can they expect anything to change?
Yeah. Speaking of change, we'll mix it up a little.
It's hat time.
I promise. We'll go with black sheep. Okay. For then. Okay. Yeah.
Nice. And then you kind of answered my next question, which was why you got into the IO psychology.
I mean,
well,
I guess,
not exactly. Was that basically like, I know I just don't want to do like a manual trades job, or?
No, so again, I grew up in a household where my dad was like, literally, he'd come home and he'd be like, I don't want you doing this.
Yeah, I did it.
So really, like he would be like, I'd see him like 5 minutes on a weekend. He'd be like, I don't want you doing this work. right? You know, and meanwhile, my brother went into that line of work, but it's like, I want you to do something else, right? And nothing against, right? You know, right? There are times where I wish I learned to trade. In a lot of ways, they're safer,
work,
right?
it pays well. I always support
they pay well, they're safer, good, honest, hard
They're hard workers.
Yeah, right. So it's in a lot of ways I kind of wish I didn't listen to my father in this scenario. But again, I grew up with that mentality where it's like there's got to be a way to improve things like that for people. I went into psychology thinking that I was go down the clinical route, right? Everybody, psychology student, thinks I'm going to be a clinical psychologist someday. Thankfully, I had an advisor in undergrad who was like, they took me aside. I was like a research advisor of them in undergrad, and she was like, I know you think you want to go down clinical, but I don't think you're going to have the patience for it. Would you consider IO psychology? You get to use a lot of the same psychological principles, but like in the workplace. And there's a little bit more money in there, probably, maybe. And if you want to feel good about yourself, you could always volunteer and do things on the side. And like, let me tell you, that was one of the best pieces of advice I got, because like I went down that track and kind of never looked back. And she was right. Now I get to do things on the side, like a lot of what I'm doing on LinkedIn, building community, educating people about stuff in space, even if it's in a fun, cynical, fun kind of way. It's still what I do to kind of, that's why I say I'm not doing it to convert anything. I'm not I'm not making money off of this. I'm doing it because I think it's fun, and I think other people can relate, right? And learn a little something, and hope if it helps them cope with what they're dealing with at work also, even better.
Yeah.
Long story short, we're winging it.
The hat change, that was perfect. No, yeah, I had never heard of IO psychology until I started looking into like grad programs or looking into jobs where it was like this degree or this degree. And I'm like, what the heck is IO psychology? And I'm like, if I had even known that this was like an option when I was going through school, which they very well could have mentioned it. I was busy fighting for my life while I was getting my degree, so it could have been mentioned and I missed it.
I'd say not all schools have like big IO programs, right? They're usually kind of hidden within the psychology department somewhere, but there's a couple of big programs out there that are very well recognized.
Yeah. So when I learned about it, I was like, wow, if I had known that this was an option, like from the get-go, I probably would have gone down this route. Which I mean, it's okay. I
think what you're doing is great.
I'm a little unhinged, so maybe I belong in the social media space.
I think what you're doing is great on social media, and even like you were absolutely like right. I feel like it was like our first or second conversation, and I kind of talked to you about my website and kind of how I wanted to position myself. And you gave me some of the best advice, like very quickly, right? You're a clear expert, right? And like, I took that advice and like the next day incorporated that into my website and right. Like just the way, like you just helped me think about the way I think about my work and frame it. And so thank you. You're great at what you do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I, that is something that I am proud of that I do think about sometimes during our conversation. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, more of that where that came from. I'll be doing consulting when I am everything up and running. Yeah. But yeah, we gotta get the website launched first, which I do have it, I think, ready. I think it's ready for tomorrow to launch.
I'm excited. So, do you want to do a plug for Said and Done? I love the last name, right? It's like the best.
Said and Done Media. That's my website, saidanddonemedia.com. Yeah, I'm launching it tomorrow. It already has all of my newsletters from like the Feedback You Never Got newsletter that I had been writing. So future ones, that's where it'll all be going. Will be on there too. And then I'll be able to expand into other areas. So I'll be writing about social media, internet culture, memes, lots of memes. I'm excited to write about memes because, like, I don't know. I feel like writing long form content about memes. I'm not one to.
Long form content about memes, which is deliberately short form content, right? It's mind breaking.
Right. I don't know if it needs to be quite in the LinkedIn feed, but maybe a link to it on the website will suffice. So that, and then just some other things that I'm thinking about. So it's like a public journal in a sense. Just writing a whole bunch of articles and releasing it, and I'm excited to have my thoughts out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the rest of you will be excited once they're out there, but
that was one of the craziest things when I started posting on LinkedIn, right? Like I started the same as everybody else. I jumped on, I was like, all right, I need a job. Let me get back on LinkedIn. I have no other social media, just LinkedIn, which my wife is like, I swore off social media in 2014. And my wife thinks it's absolutely bonkers that I'm on LinkedIn every day now because I knew nothing about social media. But like I started posting because, right, like nobody was doing it, at least not in a way that I thought engaging, right? Until folks like, right, Brianna. The first time she was dropping stuff about Hamburger Helper, I was like, what is this? I love it. Right. And it just kind of took off from there where I was like, if there's these silly folks who can be authentic and fun on LinkedIn, why can't I? Right. So I guess, Cassidy, right? There's going to be somebody out there who wants to hear your long form content about memes.
I mean, Vika had said long form content about memes equals and then 5 heart eye emojis. So that is encouraging, very encouraging. Oh my God, that completely reminds me of a comment that I saw but didn't reference. When you had the straw hat on, Rob said that you looked like Jason Mraz.
I've gotten that a few times, right? I've gotten that a few times. This, let me tell you, we talked about this was actually the very first Gorin hat I had. This is like an old friend. I had to dig it up. I was like, oh man, this one's been around. Yeah.
But when did you get your first hat?
Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment.
When did this start?
So that very first hat I bought, I was at a conference, psychology conference in Hawaii. I was still a graduate student at the time. My then girlfriend, now wife, met me out there for an extended vacation. I guess I should put the hat on for the story, for the extended vacation. And after the conference, we were at like, the hotel, and we were just kind of doing some like window shopping, and we popped into a place and this hat was there. And like jokingly, she was like trying on stuff, and jokingly I just put it on my head, and she looked at it. Again, this was my girlfriend at the time, not my wife. She's now my wife, right? And she saw the hat and just like had that quick reaction. She was just like, you know what, I like it. And I was like, okay. So I bought it, and then like I wore that hat the whole trip. So now this hat like has imbued all of those memories, those wonderful memories about like this very important part of my relationship with my wife. And it's a Gorin hat, right? And I just became like instant. It was like instant brand loyalty. I was like, I'm never gonna own another hat, right? And now I have crazy amounts of these things. Yeah, that's how it all started. Yeah, it was with this guy right here, which is like banged up and dusty. It's been around.
Yeah. I need to get well, my husband says that we need to get hats. I've been dropping little hints that I'm going to Central America. I'll tell everyone I'm going to El Salvador.
Yeah, that's nice. Get a nice Panama. Yeah.
My husband had ordered like a hat for me to wear down there because he said he didn't want me to get El Salvador on the hats that we have here. And yeah, I don't know what that means, but he has been there many times. His family from there, so whatever he says, okay.
Your husband's the real hat master, right? So I would just follow his advice. Hats. I saw Rob said his head's too big for hats. I disagree, Rob. I've never seen your head in person, but there is a hat for every head. I think we could find you one.
Kevin said it's that juicy brain of yours that is the zombie equivalent of filet mignon.
Brains.
That's so crazy. Brains. That's such a crazy comment.
So Anybody want to hear about that time I was Milton from Office Space?
Absolutely, I do. That's that's
So
the next one on here.
when we, so when we talk about IO psychology, right? Right. And again, a lot of what I post about, what I talk about, a lot of it's satire, deliberately designed to take real world experiences and morph it into something funny and relatable that we go. The whole movie Office Space, which was I think was like 1999, which is I guess dating myself a bit, right? The whole thing was office place satire, right? Like IO psychologists watch that movie as part of the curriculum, right? It's like we love that movie. And so there's a guy Milton in there, right? And at one point in the movie, if anybody's familiar, they fixed the glitch, right? Where he was fired years ago. And they just with that rather than telling him that he was fired, they just fixed the glitch where he stops getting his automatic payments. And then they're like, oh, it'll just you haven't seen Cassidy, you haven't seen this movie?
No.
You have to go watch Office Space. Please promise me at some point over the next week you will go find a copy of Office Space.
In the next week?
Yes,
oh my
gosh. So all right, this guy Milton, right? There, it's like when we think about workplace bullying, everybody's just crapping on this guy. The whole movie, everybody's just crapping on this guy Milton, and he's quiet, he's reserved, and right. Anyway, so they fire him without telling him. Right? They just say, all right, we're just going to fix the glitch and, his automatic payments will stop and eventually he'll get the hint and just stop coming to work. Right?
Yeah.
That's the joke, the satire. And people are like, oh, it's a movie. That'll never happen in real life. It happened to me. Like that is that, right? The real life happened to me when I was an intern. I was in my master's program at the time. I was in a paid internship doing like market research, right, for this place. And I was there for a couple of months. And then one day, I think it was like a Thursday, HR brings me in the office and they're like, hey, listen, due to economic troubles, yada, 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 they give me the whole rigmarole, we're unable to pay you as an intern anymore. And I was like, fine, okay, whatever, right? I was in my early 20s at the time. I was like, okay, whatever, right? Fine. When does this take effect? Right? So I have time to prepare myself. And they're like, oh, it takes I was like, when does this take effect? Tuesday. And I was like, okay, next Tuesday. That gives me like the weekend to figure some stuff out, maybe get a new job, yada, yada. And they're like, no. This last Tuesday. And then I'm just kind of staring at them, like doing the math. Like this is Thursday afternoon, like a full work day. It was like 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. They bring me in. They're like, we stopped paying you 2 days ago. And I'm looking at them like, you're out of your mind, right? And they're like, no, next Tuesday. No, we stopped paying you this Tuesday. So of course I storm out, right? Because like, how disrespectful is that, right? Like that's not real life, right? So I storm out, and like the supervisor that I was working with for this internship, they're literally chasing me out the door. I'm packing my stuff and like running out the door, and they're like, "You can't leave. We need your help, right? You're like such an important part of this." And I was like, "Then why'd you stop paying me, right? Like you need me so bad." And they're like, "Well, we thought it was part of your graduate curriculum and that the university would sort it out." And I was like, no, you're the
university,
right? They just want to see that I'm working as part of the right. It turned into a whole crazy thing. So of course I left, didn't come back, right? But like the fact that they thought that was one okay thing to do to an intern, right? And two, that they were surprised that I stormed out. Right. And here I am literally in my IO psychology master's program. And like, I couldn't had to talk about it at school. It's like, this happens in real life, right? These things that we're learning about, right? Like sometimes how ass backwards companies operate and how, employees are sometimes misused either through clerical errors or just, either deliberate or unintentional oversight. Like people get misused, mistreated, right? That's why we do this work. Right. That's why we do this work. Like any company that's hired or employs like a good IO psychologist, like literally our passion is to make sure that stupid shit like that doesn't happen like as often as it does. Yeah.
Oh my God. I just what the
Reddy's over here. Did they try to play the family card? No, they did not, sir. Right? They were literally just like, you're so important, you need to be here. It's like, yeah, then pay me. Right? Like that's that simple. Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't even have words for that. I can't believe that. And the previous Tuesday on top of that, like
Yeah, 2 full days that I was there working unpaid, right? Never got that money back, right? Incredibly disrespectful. But again,
yeah,
this is why the field exists, right? This is why
yep.
people like me should have jobs,
Yeah.
right? Be employed, should have a seat at the table to make sure stupid things like this don't happen as often as they do.
So what kind of roles do people with IO psych degrees typically end up filling in organizations?
Ooh, this is fun. There's this whole thing called the scientist practitioner gap.
I gotta show off.
Whoa! I was about to say, oh, puppy, because to me, every cute animal is a puppy.
No
So the scientist practitioner gap, right? It's quite real, not just in IO psychology, but like other, behavioral science fields and things like that. But right, you can go in academia, right? A lot of folks do, right? Where they, focus their attention towards academic-led research. It's a little bit more rigorous in most, hopefully, laboratory settings and things like that, right? To help inform how things get done practically in the real world. Obviously, there's a gap in between, and always it gets a little choppy because sadly, those of us who work on the practice side, we don't have access to the academic journals as well as we should. So the people coming up the research where it's like, here's how, right? Here is literally the science behind all of this. Those of us doing the work are detached from that, and it sucks. But those are the two sides. You could stay in academia, you could do some great research. I know a bunch of folks who are doing that. Then you can go into consulting, you can go into practice, right? Internal consulting as well as external consulting, right? To me, it's all consulting, whether you are consulting for multiple different clients across different industries, or if you're in one company consulting within that company, that's the work, right? But like when you're in-house, you can fill any number of roles, right? There's companies that are doing organizational assessments, right? Things like that. There's companies that are doing employee listening programs. There's companies that focus on hiring, onboarding, retention, recognition, right? These are all roles that IO psychologists can absolutely fill in a very big way, right? We do get roped in with HR. We do get roped in with HR quite a bit because a lot of the stuff we're doing influences HR policy in a big way, right? But like I would say like it's not an HR specific role.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why I asked, because when I saw the IO site coming up, it was always in relation to an HR type role. That's the kind that I was applying for when I was seeing those. So that's very interesting. So would it be mostly like a larger company that would hire someone like that for it? Or would like a smaller one, like a smaller organization, have a need for
probably harder to find employment in like the smaller organizations because like especially in like a startup setting, right, where everybody's wearing multiple hats, no pun intended, everybody's wearing multiple hats, right? If you're gonna have find a place that's gonna literally hire a dedicated IO psychology role, it's probably gonna be some sort of larger organization or a specific consulting firm that specializes in that particular thing. Like I said, organizational assessments hire a lot of IO specific. They look for the degree when they're hiring folks like that.
That makes sense. Interesting. Do you do a lot of work then with like employee engagement surveys and things like that?
Yeah. So when I talk about employee listening, right, I'm referring to employee engagement surveys, employee listening, employee engagement surveys, right? Yeah, that's how I started my career. I was about 6 years or so kind of focused almost entirely on employee engagement surveys, onboarding, exit 360, culture alignment surveys, things like that, really assessing. So think about rather than doing research, right? Rather than doing research in a laboratory setting on the academic side, we're still doing research, but it's more quasi-experimental, meaning that we are doing what we can within the confines of the organization, within the confines of, the resources that we have available, still trying to do the best research that we can under the circumstances. So like the fancy term for that is quasi-experimental, meaning, yes, we are still behavioral scientists. We're still trying to do the best possible research, but we can't control for everything the way we would in like a laboratory setting. Yeah.
Right. Too many variables there, especially with people.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all the same, whether you're in academia or you're in practice. Yeah, the work is as well, at least it should be. Yeah.
Yep. What would you say are like the most common issues that you see come up from those surveys? Like what seems to be the most common, I guess, issues that employees have across companies that you've worked with?
Pay inequity.
I know we didn't prep for these. I'm just throwing them at you.
Pay inequity is always going to come up. Right?
Yeah.
Anytime you talk to somebody, be like, what motivates you at work? It's getting paid fairly, right? Getting paid equity. So that's always going to come up, right? Now, the problem when that bubbles up on like a survey or some sort of listening campaign, the problem is you can't just pay people more. It's not a sustainable solution, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not, right? Even though, and at the end of the day, handing somebody more money isn't necessarily going to make them more motivated. Yes, it's going to help them satisfy some of their needs as a human being, right? Pay the bills, keep the lights on, keep the heat on, get the family fed, right? It's going to satisfy those needs. But at the end of the day, paying them more isn't necessarily going to solve the motivation and the productivity problem, but it's always important, right? So when things like that come up, you got to get a little creative. It almost always comes up, but you got to get creative with like, maybe it's not a pay equity problem, which should be explored. People analytics is a thing we haven't talked about. IO psychologists do that quite a bit, right? Using statistics and statistics and predictive analytics to kind of forecast attrition and things like that, right? Depending on different variables, like this comes up quite a bit, right? Like, are we going to lose people because like, is there really, problem with the way we're paying people? Either, there's different diversity segments and things like that. This is research that should be happening everywhere. But like in lieu of that, right? Sometimes you got to get creative. But all right, maybe it's not a pay issue. Maybe it's how we are communicating the benefits package, right? Or the other extra perks and things like that. Maybe it's more of an issue in just kind of making people aware of what they have available and things like that. Or maybe there's more cultural things that need to get addressed, right? But it's all dependent not only on the company, the industry, but even the teams within a lot of these organizations. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance, right? Any good employee listening program or engagement survey program has a way to dive down into the action layer, right? Where real action should be taking place and not just at like a high level superficial.
Right. Actually diving into it and not just assuming, okay, well, everyone said that pay sucks, so guess we got to pay everyone more.
Right, exactly. Not a sustainable, right? Just being practical, not a sustainable solution, right? Like, everybody thinks the pay sucks. We can't just pay everybody more because then we'll go bankrupt. But
yeah. No, just when you were talking about that, the thing that came to mind, like when I was like, I took a pay decrease when I went from retail into recruiting because I went from a management position into like the entry low role. Mm-hmm. And that was 1,000% worth it to me because of like the fact that I was able to have that set schedule, the fact that I was learning a new skill and something I genuinely wanted to do.
I've been in situations like that, right? And like, like I'm kind of in like, when I think about my consulting work now and like kind of what I'm thinking about for next steps and so on, sometimes it's okay to take a step back, like in to follow something that you feel more passionate about so that you don't despise going to work every day, right?
Yep.
Right? It's like a crunchy kind of thing to talk about, but like following your passion is very important. Right. Yeah. Being able to monetize that is also very important. But like, finding that balance is like, that's the dream for everybody.
Yeah. Pravarshi had asked if the results of the research are shared with everyone or just management when you do those surveys.
Yeah, that's Reddy. I know Reddy. We've had a couple of chats. He's good. He works at Deloitte. Shout out to Deloitte, I guess. Right? An unintentional shout out to Deloitte. What was the question? Are the results of the research shared with everyone or only with management? Come on, you know the answer is depends. right?
That's what I assumed.
Right? The answer is it depends, right? Sometimes there's sensitive information that doesn't need to be shared with everybody outside of a certain level within the organization. This, I guess the real answer to that question is, or rather, like the importance of solid information governance, right? Who needs to see what and when and how. I'm a strong proponent into as full transparency as is appropriate. But I guess the answer is like what the question is, what is appropriate depending on the setting and the environment. Yeah.
True. And then he had also asked if you worked with primarily US-based organizations or if you've worked cross-country teams as well.
This is an interview, right? What's going on here, right? Just call.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, right. I've worked with.
You're on a podcast.
I've worked with folks. I've worked with companies overseas, clients overseas, right? Especially when we, important things to take into account when you're, especially in the DE&I space, right? Which I feel like we're not doing enough research these days, right? We've taken a step back there in recent years, and there was some really great and wonderful research happening in that space that's kind of taken a step back, and I hope the pendulum swings back. But, when we think about things like that, right, EU laws are a lot stricter and stuff. So it's just stuff to be aware of that you have to brush up on when you're working with clients overseas and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Perfect. We made it to the hour mark.
That's crazy. I didn't think we were going to have like an hour's worth of stuff to talk about. I hope people had fun.
Well, I had fun, and as long as you had fun, that's what matters.
Yeah. That is what, right? Yeah, but like I want to, we're building a community here. That's literally why we're here, right?
Exactly. What are your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are, 1, this was awesome. So thank you. 2, if anybody wants to talk to like a real genuine, awesome recruiter who like Cassidy's fantastic. Yes, she's right. She's like, this meme queen, but she is a genuine expert, right? I had like 2 or 3 conversations with her, each time incredibly valuable, and like so subtle with her feedback and like on the fly, like where I was getting feedback that I didn't even ask for, I didn't even realize, and it was super helpful. So Cassidy, you are an expert. You're wonderful. Thank you for bringing me on. And I'm here to build a community, right? If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, DM me. I am notoriously bad at responding back to DMs, but if you ask me a question in a comment, that I'll somehow see and respond immediately. I don't know how it works, but yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Jason. I am so grateful that you're able to spend your Sunday afternoon with us.
Thank you.
I know that our communities aren't as like close as like me and Max's, for example, that are like essentially one. So it's always nice when I have someone that's a little bit outside of that community coming in and to kind of like, bring each other to each other's worlds. So I appreciate the insight that you brought in IO Psych, especially since I'm sure a lot of people didn't even know what it was going into this.
You find somebody who else works in IO psychology, I guarantee you they are a passionate nerd.
Right.
They are. They're going to be a passionate nerd like me. So go have fun. Pick their brain.
Yep. And then thank you to everyone that showed up and was commenting. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the comments that you were asking. My next Podcassidy is Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Right. No Sunday scaries.
No Sunday scaries. All right. Bye.